Yes, hello, welcome once again to MoDXtra Games and Collectibles. It's time for another action figure review here on the channel. And as you can see on the screen in front of you right now, today's installment is going to be taking a closer look at the Four Horsemen ATL-25 figure. And to be clear, this is the standard release, not the Toy Lanta Special. ATL there, of course, standing for Artillery Team Leader. So stick around, folks. I'm going to give you all the ins and outs, ups and downs that you need to know about this fig. So if you've been thinking about picking one up for yourself, you'll have good, thorough information to make your purchase decision with. I'm going to start by taking a look at the packaging and then move into the figure itself, talk about the aesthetic and visual experience, then take a look at the articulation and posability, have a run through of all the added value, extra and goodies, the accessories, if you will, and compare it next to a couple of other figure lines. And with all that said and done, should be plenty of thorough information for you to use to make your mind up whether this guy's worth opening your wallet for. So let's get into it, and let's start by jumping back in time to visit past Chris on the day it arrived on my doorstep, and I took a look at the packaging. Okay then, folks, well, here is the Artillery Team Leader ATL-25 in packaging. Quick peek at him here for the inbox collectors or the folks who are interested in the peg presents. And as you can see, it's a blister on card setup, name of the figure at the bottom there. Big blister pack there showing off most of the goodies. There's a little bit of stuff down the bottom here. Got the Four Horsemen logo in the corner, a little bit of kind of battlefield flavor image and some sky and some clouds in the background. Then on the back, got this pretty little digital render of the figure in action, some credits and whatnot across the bottom. Then a little biographical file card for ATL-25 on the side there. You can pause the screen and, I don't know, get your magnifying glass out to read it if you're so inclined. But it gives you a bit of information about the figure. And, you know, that's it, basically. That's what you've got in terms of the packaging situation. So I'm going to run away now and open this bad boy up, get good and hands-on, have some man-child playtime, take some photos, pose him up, test him out in some displays, and, you know, just get some good review thoughts together. So I'll be back in a couple of days to share those thoughts. So stick around. Future Chris is going to be with you in 3, 2, 1... All right then, folks. Well, here is the Artillery Team Leader, then ATL-25, as he came out of the packaging. Well, almost as he came out of the packaging. The shoulder pads were loose, but I've added them on. They're an accessory, really, but I've thrown them on because I want to talk about the visual experience, the aesthetic of the figure, and I think they are, you know, they're a key part of that visual experience that you're getting from it. Now, regulars around these parts will know that, you know, Four Horsemen stuff, you know, Mythic Legions, Cosmic Legions, not a regular purchase for me. I've obviously gone for this guy because of the science fiction military aesthetic that I felt might work well with some of the other lines I collect, even despite the scale difference. This is a 7-inch figure, and obviously most of the stuff I collect is 6-inch. In any case, here he is head to toe. It's quite a striking figure for sure. It was the aesthetic, the visual experience of what I saw advertised that caught my eye and drove me to make the purchase from a manufacturer that I don't normally buy stuff from. And I think you can see just from the head to toe look that there's just a little bit of X factor about the aesthetic qualities of this guy that is really cool. Moving in a bit closer then, I mean, the head sculpt for a start looks awesome, doesn't it? There's this kind of grizzled veteran dude, got his big bushy beard, great sculpting details in there, excellent facial features, the cheeks, the chin, the nose, the lips, the paint applications on the eyes and the eyebrows, got the big, closely shaved head there. Just really excellent head sculpt and selling something of the personality of this Artillery Team Leader character here, this ATL-25. This dude's seen shit, you know what I mean? You can tell by looking at his eyes. But there's lots of great details besides. I mean, I've been bowled over by some of the kind of paint application and sculpting quality. I mean, if we look down into the shoulder pads and into this body armor at the front here, we got the paint applications on the screw bolt pieces in the armor. If I lift that up there, you can see the straps, the clasps on the straps have all got individual paint applications. The little decal on the chest here, like all the studs and stuff. Bit of a wash over it as well to get into the darker recesses to make it look like worn armor. And if I zoom in a bit more, I mean, look at the belt piece here. Bit of dry brushing and a bit of wash over the leathery bits. Every stud and clasp is individually painted all the way around. And a little radio here with a green strap on it, a clasp on it on a brown leather pouch. Yeah, just look at it, all the extra detail. You can see the dry brushing and the wash there on these big leather pouches at the back, just really giving it lots of depth, lots of personality. And that continues throughout. Like up top here on the shoulder pieces, look, every individual bit of paint application in that kind of gunmetal kind of look, all the straps and clasps in there. Really, really great attention to detail stuff. Really great sculpting and paint applications. These extra bits of armor like the gauntlet here. Look, the little studs on the back of the gloves, they've bothered to do those, and all down in here. Again, with a bit of a dry brush and a wash on it to give it some kind of mucky, used depth. You know, and same again on these little panels, these kind of thigh armor panels here. Look at the detail in there. All the darker recesses painted in with the wash and the dry brush over the top with the kind of dirt color. Got the great camo paint job there in the trousers. Really lovely, really stands out. And then the texture details in there too, like in the piece of clothing under the armor piece there, and then the texture details, the fabric texture details into the trousers, and you can see the folds and creases in there to give it depth, give it texture. Love it. Individual paint applications on the knee pads, on the little stud sections there, and again that kind of mucky, used look and feel about them. All the way down into the boots with that kind of leathery look. Individual paint application on there. Look, it's just excellent. The attention to detail, the sculpting, like the boot shape there. Look at that. Really, really great. I love the sculpting on these kind of forearm armor sections. Look like with all the different textures and shapes in there. Really, really very, very well done. Let me get him in focus to look at it from that side. Yeah, look at that. Brilliant. One aesthetic element I'm not so keen on is this piece of armor here, this like cod piece over the front of his groin. He's got a matching piece at the back here. That one doesn't look too bad. In fact, you can unpeg that. It's got you can pull it off if you were so inclined. He says, trying to watch your hands, not the screen, Chris. But you know, why would you just leave this massive gaping hole, like literally an arsehole? But yeah, I don't like the look of this front piece, but it is a necessary evil, really, because it sort of disguises the very kind of, plain sort of plastic action figure joints underneath, holding the whole groin and hip section together. And, you know, from a kind of practical point of view, for the head canon of the figure, the kind of storytelling with the figure, yeah, man, you gotta look after your bits and pieces, you know what I mean? You gotta guard the old twig and berries, so... fair play. It's just a matter of personal preference. I don't like the shape of it. Colour scheme wise as well, great. You know, you got the greens and the kind of sandy khaki colours, the lighter shades in there, the camouflage paint application, really great, but it's got a lovely symmetry to it as well, which makes it really easy on the eye. And of course, aesthetically as well, the design is got this kind of classic military look and feel about it. You can obviously also sense the sort of futuristic science fiction element that gives it a bit of a tone of like an Aliens Colonial Marine or like a Gears of War sort of vibe or something, with the kind of shape choices and the contours and stuff to it. And obviously some of the more kind of futuristic looking aspects there. You know, it fit right in with, I don't know, something like Dune or The Foundation or like I say, a Colonial Marine, which is really, really cool. What that does mean, and I'll talk about this in more detail a little later on, is that even though he's got a military look and feel, it does slightly set him apart a bit too much from your classifieds, your Valaverses, you know, the more kind of mainstream military lines. But that said, still looks awesome. So aesthetically, yeah, this guy's a thumbs up. The visual experience is tremendous. I'm loving it. Just you get what you pay for. It's slightly more expensive than what I kind of normally buy, but the attention to detail, the kind of finer sculpting, the finer paint applications, just that extra bit of something that adds to that X factor and makes it a really, really striking figure. So yeah, very happy with the visual experience, with the aesthetic of this guy. Just brilliant. Yeah, I'm bowled away. And for my first Four Horsemen Cosmic Legions figure, very impressed. Yeah, well done, Four Horsemen. Loving the sculpting work. So there we go. All right, well, that's the visual, the aesthetic experience. And let's now take a look at the articulation and posability. As always, folks, I've popped in timestamps, chapters below, so if you're already familiar with this Four Horsemen book, which I believe has been used before, and you're all across the articulation, then feel free to skip ahead to hear my review thoughts on the accessories and added value. But if this is the first Four Horsemen review you've ever seen, or you're interested to know if there's any particular quirks, then stick around and I'll run you through it. And starting up top with the head, there's a ball in the base of the skull, and I think there might be a ball at the base of the neck, but your up's really good. Your down would be better if it wasn't for his beard, and you can go all the way around, full 360, X-assist, and so on and so forth. And you probably saw under there, it's moving here on a joint of some description at the bottom of the neck too. So a good range of motion there in the head. Moving down into the shoulders, it's a peg and a hinge, so you can, move it around in the joint there and get a T-shape up to there. It's a single joint elbow on a peg, so you can get up to there on the hinge, and then it moves in and out like so. There's also some swivel here on these forearm pieces, and then pegged in at the wrists, so you've got movement in the wrist area, and then these two hands have got up and down hinges on them. Into the main torso, and it's just this ball joint here at the I was going to say the hips, but it's quite high up, but you get the idea. But you've got lots of swivel and tilt in there. Hinge and pegs on the hip joints here, so you can go out like so, come forward like so. That's fine. In fact, you can see them there for spreading eagled. Swivel joint at the top of the thigh. Single jointed knees, again like the elbows with pegs in, so you can bend up to about there, and then you can turn and swivel on the peg point. And then you've got a hinge and rockers on the ankles. So I've got to say, really, folks, the articulation's a bit edging towards the down. Bit disappointed with the range of articulation there. Some stuff that comes as standard with lots of other lines now, like butterfly joints, 2 sets of articulation in the torso, triple jointed arms, triple jointed legs, has meant that when I've come to try and pose him up, I've found the articulation is limited against my imagination and some of the stuff I've been trying to do, especially when you start factoring the accessories, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second. But the accessories, some of the stuff you want to try and do with them that you think would just be the natural thing to do with the accessories, the articulation limits your ability to do, which is a shame. So it's very much one of those where you've got that kind of aesthetic experience where a lot of the time, energy, and where obviously the development money has gone into the look and the feel of the figure, the aesthetic experience. It's, I don't know, it feels a little bit behind the times on articulation for me. However, what I tell you, articulation is there, it's fine. Works, no problem at all. But yeah, it's more of a kind of statuesque figure in that respect. So there we go. Okay, so that was articulation. Let's now, mentioning the accessories, let's take a closer look at the accessories and added value, shall we? And I'll just quickly revisit the shoulder pads. These were obviously loose in the package. You have to peg them in on the back here. They just takes a little bit of a wiggle. But these peg in on the shoulders there, and you've seen me moving them up and down. You can take those off, have them on. You can see that it's fully sculpted underneath the shoulder pad if that's the way you want to go. Just revisiting them because I have mentioned them already, but they are part of the accessory selection. Then we have this head swap here, which is like this kind of alien insectoid shaped kind of thing. Which is really balmy and out there. I love this kind of translucent top on there. You can see that kind of weird scanner eyeball-y thing underneath. Lots of different colours. Obviously, they match up with the rest of the armour. Loads of sculpted detail in there. Like look in there. You can see that little bit of little tubing coming down to the front of this sort of breather section there, which is really, really great to see. And sculpted on the inside underneath this sort of transparent piece of plastic at the top, which is really lovely. And the studs are in there. Just, yeah, excellent. Obviously, bringing its whole... a whole different kind of visual experience, a whole different aesthetic flavour to the figure, all told. So, yeah, if you're into that, you can lean into that. And then we have these arm changes. You can change the upper section of the arms there. Down to the elbow, and then you pop off these forearm pieces, peg them on. I've only done one of the 2 arms, but there is one for both sides. So if you're doing the kind of space alien helmet aesthetic, and you want to make it otherworldly and disguise the kind of human skin underneath, then you can do. Or if you want to make him kind of more uniformed, then that's an option. I've got to admit, I've only done one arm because these are a bit of a chore. Taking off these forearm pieces and swapping them about is really awkward. This section here is so short that you kind of purchase, your area of purchase to sort of wiggle them off is very, very shallow. And what I was finding is I was popping the elbows out all the time, the peg out at the elbows. So, yeah, just a bit annoying. I applied a bit of heat and stuff, but it still didn't help. But yeah, it's still aesthetically though, a wonderful addition, and I like that sort of customization element that they've added to the experience. Then, folks, we've got this selection of stuff, which, frankly, I'm just going to call it out and declare my dumbassness, and you can correct me in the comments down below, but I can't figure out what any of these are for. I don't know what they're for. This looks like some kind of magazine drum thing, but then it's got a plug-in section on the front that maybe that fits into there like that. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm all out of focus. Then a random handle. I mean, what's that for? Then this random piece that's got a plug on it. It looks like it plugs onto his back, but I don't know what you put, mounting these holes or whatever. No idea. And then this random belt with like a little loop section on here, which you can, pop the torso and slide it over it. But yeah, I don't get it. Now, what my suspicion is, and I haven't checked, and I'll confess I haven't checked. I don't like watching other people's reviews before I make my own review. So I haven't checked, but my suspicion is that these are all items to go along with the shield, maybe? Was included as an extra bonus accessory with the Toylanta exclusive. I feel like that handle's got a back of the shield sort of vibe on it, and maybe that's some sort of way of carrying the shield on his back. And I don't really know what that's all about. And then he's got his kind of BT stick thing, like a little electricity staff thing in the Toylanta exclusive that maybe slides through that hole and sits on his back, or can sit in that loop there, like holstered on the side. And if that is the case, that's really odd. That's really strange that these are all included with this figure. But if they have another purpose, and I'm just not getting it, then please let me know in the comments down below, because I can't shake this feeling like I'm being just a bit of a dickhead about it, a total idiot. But yeah, they're there. And I suppose that whole idea of customizing your Four Horsemen figures and mixing and matching stuff amongst all your Cosmic Legions would mean that these would have a place for you somehow. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, let me know, folks. Someone enlighten me, please. And then it's hand swaps, boys and girls. So you probably noticed on the figure, as it comes out of the packet, they're just standard grippy hands, but we've got this kind of open palm claw, one for each side there, and then a trigger finger, one for each side there as well, so that you can use his loadout. And let's get started with the main event on the loadout, which is this just big sci-fi, massive laser cannon thing, which looks really intense. Really great piece of work. You've got this section here that sort of pegs in and out. I'm not sure why. Again, I suspect that, if you wanted to chop and change items from across your collection to turn that barrel section into something different, you can do. You can see all this extra sculpted detail in here, the gunmetal paint applications, bit of a look at the dry brush, the little metallic dry brush over the black sections there to give it a little kind of metallic sparkle, which is really awesome. All the different sculpted sections in, like across the handle, and then these pieces across the top. Yeah, really great looking kind of science fiction massive cannon thing, which is very eye-catching and was definitely a part of the ooh element when I saw it advertised. And then to go alongside it, you've got the backpack here. Again, look at this. Excellent piece of work. Loads of sculpted detail in there, loads of paint applications, interesting contours and shapes with the panels and stuff, even down to look at that, these little studs, just little black dots, but they're in there, they're painted in. We've got these little mounting ports, which I'll come back to in a second, and then the plug at the bottom here, which is where it interacts with this. But first, I'll just point out how it works with the figure. So you've got this peg piece here, got the peg hole in the back there, and it plugs in quite nicely like so. And one thing I'm really appreciative of is that they've factored in the clearance needed there to accommodate if you're having the shoulder pads. And then we've got this massive heavy-duty ammo belt piece here. It's fairly flexible, although I've got some thoughts on that I'll mention in a minute. But it plugs one end into the gun and one end into the base of the backpack, which is obviously then feeding ammunition through into this massive cannon piece. And you'll see here on the cannon piece, there's like a little cutaway corner there, so you'll know exactly which end of the big ammo belt goes in there, and then you've got the peg at this end, which plugs in the bottom there. So it looks great, really, the shelf presence, the striking nature of that massive gun with this big heavy-duty ammo belt. Yeah, it's got a really cool aesthetic about it. However, practically, it's annoying. It's really bloody annoying. This thing is so heavy duty and impractical that if you want to kind of get him legs spread in a kind of shooty position, which the limited articulation is not helping you out with, it's not flexible enough to curve round, and his legs, you can't get his leg out any further than there. It's really annoying. And if you do, you can see there it starts to pop out. It's kind of the mechanics of it, the engineering of it are not very well thought out for the way that you would want to pose him, kind of shooting his gun like that. Because you see, as you bring the leg out more, that bends out and, well, pops loose at the back there. So your next option is to feed it through the legs, like so that this big heavy-duty ammo belt can stay in the peg, vertically. And then what kind of soldier's running his bullet belt between his legs there? It's going to affect the mobility. It looks great. And once you've kind of found your pose, it's all right, but it's practically a bit of a pain in the backside with that vertical plug at the bottom there, because it doesn't flexibly come round the side here enough that if you want to put him in a kind of shooty position. And trust me, folks, if you go and do a Google Images search now for this ATL-25, you'll notice that all the promo shots have got him in this kind of running position with this leg kind of turned in like that, which I thought was curious. So looks great, really heavy duty, got this great vibe about it for murdering evil aliens, but I found it a bit of a practical chore, and with the limited articulation, it's been a pain in the ass. Then we have his rifle here, suitably kind of futuristic, little kind of sci-fi laser rifle-y type thing. It's in the same camo pattern as his pants there, which is nice, but lovely. Once again, little paint applications, all these individual studs and screws and stuff have been given a little dash of paint there in that metal colour to bring it to life, which is nice. Lovely little science fiction weapon. And then this has got one of the little mounting ports on it too, which I'll show you in a sec. And then his pistol, again, nice kind of sci-fi laser pistol sort of look. Big chunky laser thing, and little paint application on the end there on his little laser targeter, and the studs are all painted too, which is nice. And then inside the packet, you get these little see-through rods. There's two slightly longer ones and two shorter ones, and these fit in these various ports that are across a number of the accessories there. And you recall when we had a look at the figure before, there's matching ports at various points within the figure there. So, if you want to mount his rifle into the side of his backpack like so, or you want to put his pistol in there like that, holster mounted. There's matching ones here. You got ones on the arm there. Presumably there's other kind of Cosmic Legions accessories that fit on the arms. Or you got this little peg here at the back where you can put his pistol again as well. So just all these various kind of areas that you can use these little rods for. So it's a good, strong accessory selection, just hand swaps, head swap, different customizable options, shoulder pads, different arms, etc., etc. A range of weaponry to suit your imagination and the storytelling that you want to do with your figure. That's all good and solid. It's just a shame that the limited articulation doesn't necessarily help you out bring those, imaginative ideas to life when integrating the various accessories, and the implementation's a little bit shaky. Like I say, this thing looks great, and I love the idea, but practically it just doesn't help you pose him up the way you want to pose him up. Or, the fact that I found it a nightmare to do the arm swaps. So, a mixed bag, but overall, in terms of added value, loads of stuff in there. Even things that I don't even know what to do with. So there we go, there's the accessories. Let's now take a look at ATL-25, next to a couple of other figures from some different lines, shall we? So I'll start off with the obvious comparison, I suppose. Here is the artillery team leader next to Roadblock. And I've given Roadblock the big weird science fiction canon thing, which wasn't with this Roadblock, was it? But you can definitely see the difference in scale there. This is taller, bulkier, to sort of more chunky by comparison. If I pop him here now again next to Classified Rock and Roll and the Colonel from Valaverse, again, you can sort of see that chunkier, bigger scale. He's about the same height as the Colonel here with bent legs, but I think definitely can conclude that if you were looking at this guy and thinking, well, can I integrate him into my other kind of military style lines, I think the scale would stand out. I think the difference in size and shape stands out. And here's ATL-25 going around on the turntable, so you can get a nice 360 view of the figure. And while you're eyeballing that, I'll offer up a few final thoughts. And, well, it's an interesting one, this one. I found him to be a little bit fiddly, needing a lot of finessing. The limited articulation has proven to be frustrating with me trying to sort of bring what my imagination sees possible for this guy to life. But I can't help but like him. I mean, they've really won me over. I'm definitely going to take a closer look at the Four Horsemen stuff further than this guy, because the sculpting and the paint applications really is tremendous. And they've chucked loads of stuff in there to add the value as well. And whether I can make the most of that accessory selection so that it is, in fact, adding value, well, that's a different question. I think that some part of this is my own limitations in terms of patience, being a bit mob-handed, bit heavy-handed, bit impatient, wanting to try and get it the way I want it immediately. I'm not so much of a finesser when it comes to posing. So if you've got a bit more patience and you're a bit more experienced with getting the more out of less when it comes to the limited articulation, and you like the look of it, which is where I'm at, then fill your boots. But ultimately, it's just going to become a bit of a display piece for me. I'll find a pose that I'm happy with and then just pop him out, and that'll be that. But I can recommend it if you're comfortable, with those kind of drawbacks that I've identified. So there we go. Okay, well, that concludes my review of ATL-25 from Four Horsemen. If you found this useful, then give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. If you've been thinking about picking one up, hopefully I've helped you make your decision. All that remains to say is I hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great week. And, if you're up for it, why not swing back around sometime soon and check out another video of mine, or stick around and have a look at what YouTube recommends you in a minute. All right? Okay, folks, well, take it easy, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye now.